I'm giving up. This is my first time fasting and it's been like really hard.
I've climbed Mount Kenya and I'll tell you that fasting is more difficult than climbing Mount Kenya.
On day 3 of our fast.
I can't even talk. I'm so hungry. My tongue is dry and I was also bored because I'm just used to like, if I don't know what to do, I go eat some nuts. It's amazing how much time you have when you don't eat.
That's true. But I wanted to say, so we didn't do this for weight loss. However, we called it a 7-day fast because we didn't actually eat anything for 7 days. But now that we're coming out of it, we're going to come out of it really slowly and really intentionally. And I think that's where a lot of, like, if I look back to my past fasts, that was it's always the thing that has kind of gotten me, is coming out of it in the best way possible.
Do you think you've come out of your other fast? I feel like I was with you 2 years ago when you did your 10-day fast. Mm-hmm. And I felt like you were very careful about the way you came out of it.
I was, and I'll tell you why. Okay. Because the very first fast I ever did, I decided finally, I was like a teenager, and my mother's Jewish, and I went to temple for a few years when we actually had a synagogue that we belonged to. I was young, and so I didn't do like fast on Yom Kippur. And finally, I became a teenager, and I was like, you know what, this is important to me, I want to do it. And so I fasted for Yom Kippur, and then I was so excited to eat that night my mom ordered pizza, and I ate like an entire pizza.
Oh God, no.
And then I just went and I lied down and I fell asleep and I slept for like 12 hours.
Oof.
So I was a teenager when I learned how not to come out of a fast. But I feel like each time I'm improving it. And in this time, I think we're bringing even more intentionality to it as we've done a little bit more research, and I've done it a few times. So yeah, the last time I always come out carefully, but it's, it is something that I think can be worked on and improved. And I'm kind of excited to see how we're going to come out of this one.
Yeah, I have done a juice fast, but this is for like 3 days. Yeah. I don't even know if you call that a fast, but this is my actual fast. And I'm very careful about how I come out of it. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing some research online. I don't know if doing research online on Google and YouTube constitute research, but...
Probably not, but...
Probably not.
You did some Google searches.
Yeah, and some YouTube searches. So the way we're going to come out of it is we're going to have celery juice. And then, should we have our fast
all right,
juice?
Here we go. We are going to break our fast right now. Look, right before we started, I made celery juice. We can kind of stir that a little bit because it separates a little bit. It's been sitting for a few minutes.
Oh my God.
This is celery juice with some ginger. Ooh, I tasted the ginger. See how I just put that in my mouth? Go ahead, that's it. That's the first taste. And then a little bit of lemon juice as well.
Oh my God.
So let's see how this goes. Cheers, dear.
Cheers. Oh my God.
Wow. Nourishment. All right. Sorry if this is going to take us a second to process. This is pretty amazing.
Oh my God.
Oh. Wow. Here's one other thing about fasting is that flavors, haven't had flavors in so long that is like fantastic.
The ginger, I feel it like in my nose and in my head.
So nice.
So amazing.
And that's another thing that I'm kind of excited about, is that food is like something you just kind of like do, right? You get excited about food, but it's like, it becomes almost habitual. Like I eat, I put food in my face, and then I just keep going. And now it's like, even thinking about how we're going to do this, a lot of consciousness around it as opposed to unconsciousness, which I think that for a lot of folks, the unconsciousness around food is very common.
Yeah.
Because you need it, right? I mean, so.
Yeah, you need it. And for me, intentionally, I want to eat more food because I want to gain muscle, but I also want to eat more food, but good food.
Right.
Not just any food.
Mm-hmm.
So my intention this year has been to gain more muscle weight. But yeah, I want to be also healthier in the way that I think about food and what I eat.
Yeah. And so kind of importantly to note too, when we did this, this was really, like you said, you wanted to challenge yourself with it. For me, I really wanted to cleanse, really just do a cleanse and kind of reset my system. I always find that with the fast, there's definitely a spiritual component. And you said earlier, I wish I had meditated more and I had journaled more, but you meditated twice a day, every day, and you journaled every day.
I did not journal every day, but I meditated twice a day. But I feel like I wish I'd made my meditations more intentional.
So they were just your practice as opposed to something that was...
Correct. I feel like I wish I had kind of just made that to be my intention, that I am going to do this fast. And even set the meditations that I was going to do aside. Because what I did the meditations that I usually do on my normal days. And yeah, I wish I was like planned better about the kind of meditation that I wanted to do. But definitely I did challenge myself. I'm proud of myself for getting through 7 days.
Yeah, but you also, you journaled a bit. I journaled every day.
Yeah, I journaled a bit, but not every day.
Got it. But I wanted to say, so we didn't do this for weight loss.
No.
That was not the point. However...
And we have not weighed ourselves because we don't have a scale. Which helps. However, I put on some jeans that I haven't worn in 2 years because they can fit, and they definitely do fit. So,
and so I think kind of going back with how we're going to come out of it, there's that kind of the healthy way, really for the system. But then there's also, people, a lot of times I think people fast to lose weight.
Yeah.
And it generally doesn't work. And there's a reason why it doesn't work, and there's a way to counter that. And we're going to do that. And part of using that same strategy that, to reduce like weight gain is actually because I actually do need to put the weight back on. I'm a pretty skinny guy, but is actually to make sure that we also come out of it really gently and intentionally. So do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. So for us, the next 3 days are going to be pretty much like the fast 3 days that we went into this fast.
Even less intense. Like it's
Correct.
Juice, it's broth.
So yeah, today we're going to have, after we record this podcast, we are going to have some bison. Is it bison? Mm-hmm. Bison soup, warm.
Bone broth.
Bone broth.
So there's just broth.
Yeah. And then around 5:36, we're going to have our dinner, which, do you want to explain what dinner is?
Basically going to be a little bit of bone broth with some kale in it.
Yeah.
And
so we're just going to put some veggies in the broth.
Yeah, just leafy greens, basically.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be the same meal tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be the same meal the next day. And we might add a little bit of quinoa to that.
Probably on like day 3, we'll add some grains. But that's it,
And then after that, we're going to do like intentional intermediate fasting for a while and start like be aware of how much water we're drinking.
And also how much we eat, because I've noticed it can be really hard to come out because you're so hungry and your body is doing something. I haven't eaten in a long time, and so it basically is saying like, oh, starvation mode. So as soon as it gets food and it knows that there's a lot of food there, it's almost like compulsive. I can't help but stuff it in my face. It takes so much willpower, and a lot of people can't do it. And you're like, oh, I know I should just eat a little bit, and then you go back for seconds. So there are 2 things that we're going to do. One is drink 2 liters of water before a meal. That way you're already kind of, your stomach feels full. And then the second thing is whatever we put on our plates will never go back for seconds.
Yeah, I really don't. I grew up without going up for seconds. And since I moved to America, like I go for seconds and thirds. And I just don't want to back. I don't really like it,
Because sometimes the food is just so dang good.
It is very good. And then so if you go for thirds, then there's desserts and you're actually eating like 4th course every night. Mm-hmm. And then I'm full and I don't feel good. Like I just really want to eat for nourishment. I just don't like the eating to just be like full.
Well, I think you can also eat really for the enjoyment of it. But I think one of the things that happens, at least in my culture, is that part of the enjoyment is not only the taste, but the amount of times you can taste that. So like I eat good food. I am a foodie. I am a good cook.
You're a really good cook.
I eat good food, so I will. But I can eat, this much good food or I can eat this much good food. I can basically, it can be like a French thing or it can be like the all you can eat buffet. And the reality is that nobody actually needs an all you can eat buffet, but I eat until I'm full usually, as opposed to eat until I'm actually know that I'm satisfied.
Just a side note, I remember the first time I did all you can eat buffet, I was in Vegas and I went to an all you can eat sushi place. Sushi kept coming and coming and coming and I just kept eating and eating because I don't do all you can eat. And I went back to my hotel room and the guy that I was dating at the time, he just was like full and just like went to bed. I slept in the bathroom throwing up. I felt so bad. And that was my introduction to all you can eat. And as I'm throwing up all night, I was like, I am never doing this. Like, all you can eat is not a sentence that is going to exist because I was so sick.
Yeah.
And I went to bed at 6 in the morning because I got really sick. So I do not go.
So it's a cautionary tale about all you can eat? Well, your system's not used to it because I'll tell you, I grew up in America and particularly during my teen years, like an all you could eat was a dream come true because it was hard. Like it was almost impossible for me to have all I could eat. The only way I could have all I could eat was at a buffet that was all I could eat.
Yeah, I don't do those.
So,
Yeah. But this has been a really amazing experience. And do you think you'd advise people to do it?
I do, and there are a couple things. One, I think that you have to be really intentional. You have to know what you're doing. You have to do some research. There are plenty of books. You also, I think it's probably good for people to start off small, like to go right into my first fasts were 1-day fasts. And then, eventually I did like a 12-day fast, which is a little much for a first fast. I think that in general, kind of like easing into it is really good. But I will say one thing I hear when I've told people that I fasted is they say, I could never do that because I get cranky after missing one meal or whatever. And this is very, very different. A fasted state is completely different than missing a meal.
Yeah.
You get super cranky when you're like low blood sugar.
I know. And I really don't like it because I just feel like when I get that cranky, it's like I'm letting my hunger control who I am. And it's like something that I want to work on.
There were a few times where we were like a little bit shorter with each other than we often are. Or one of us was feeling a little more sensitive. There was never that moment where you're like, neither of us ever were hangry.
No, I didn't.
Never hangry.
No, just weak.
Yeah, just a little bit weak. And so, like, for me, I miss a meal, it's not good. Like, I get low blood sugar, and I used to have to be really careful, and I still do. Like, the first meal I eat in the morning, I have to be very careful because if I eat too many carbs without enough protein or too much sugar, ruin my entire day with blood sugar, or miss a meal, it can be really hard for me. But this is not missing a meal. Fasting is not going hungry.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things that I feel like people should have as a lifestyle. I don't know. I just feel like it gives you something, you experience something and you're more in touch with yourself. It's almost as if you're like checking out of life, So especially if you do it intentional. I'm not just saying like go out and fast. I think I'm talking about more intentional fast where you listen to your body, you journal, you meditate. That's the kind of fast I would tell people to do.
Yeah.
And I do want to make this as something that I do every year.
Right.
So.
And I'll do it with you. I'll also say that colors, like all your other senses, become so much more heightened. I found my brain wasn't quite as fast as it normally is, but colors really vibrant. Sounds, I can hear them better because there's not all that attention going into digestion. The body uses a lot of energy to digest. If you're not digesting, that energy is going into the other senses.
Yeah, and I found myself sitting outside more and just looking at the trees and like just enjoying nature, which on my normal days, like I would not, because I was feeling weak and I didn't want to be on my computer. So I went outside and sat by myself with no phone, just looking at nature.
Nice.
So
if you fasted before and have any good advice, let us know, make some comments, send us an email, info.itsnotall@gmail.com. And if you have more questions, also put those in the comments, send us a message. We can send you a few resources, and we'll also make sure to add that into our blog that we're going to write on this as well. And otherwise, just make sure to subscribe to the channel or to the podcast. That way you can always make sure to get notified when our next episode is available. Good news is it's pretty easy. It's always on Tuesdays.
And if you'd like to join our next fast next year, just email us and we'll
let you know. We'll all do it together.
Yeah.
Having support makes a huge
does.
difference.
Yeah, it was nice that we did it together. So,
Okay, so
all right.
cheers.
Cheers.
Love you.
I love you.